a shooting and gave a description of an individual who they thought may have been involved. The police were immediately dispatched and came to the house at 64 Howie Road. And when they got here, there was a suspect on scene when they arrived who matched the description that they had been given at the time. The suspect was in and around the front entranceway of 64 Howie Road. Braintree police made some commands. He complied with those commands. He was taken into custody at that time in front of the residence. They also, the individual has been identified as Robert Bonang, B-O-N-A-N-G, 61 years old. He's a former resident of this neighborhood, has not lived here in a number of years. The police also immediately observed a female in the entranceway of 64 Howie Road, who was a resident of that home, later identified as Laurie Melchionda, and it's M-E-L-C-H-I-O-N-D-A. She was a resident of the house. She was suffering from apparent gunshot wounds. They immediately got medical assistance for her, and she was transported to the South Shore Hospital, where she didn't survive the injuries and pronounced short time later. It's believed that this is a target event. It's not a random act, and this is not something that the neighbors should have to worry about. Anyone have any questions? I'd be happy to answer a few questions. I know the chief is available too.
Just a little bit about, you said not random, so there might be some type of prior relationship with evidence somewhere.
The suspect had been a neighbor in this neighborhood for many years. He's now lived here for, I'm told, the last half a dozen years. So they're people who were known to each other.
We're told he was dressed in some kind of delivery type looking outfit.
Well, I guess it was believed to be, and maybe the chief can speak to it, but the description was given brown type color uniform. It wasn't so much uniform, but brown in nature. So.
What was their relationship? I mean, there was a dispute between them. Can you
the matter is still under investigation, other than for me to tell you that he's been had been a resident of the neighborhood. The police had been to the neighborhood in the past, but obviously he's not lived here in the past 6 years. So I can't tell you as to, at this time, the nature of any recent dispute between the parties.
What did police come here for in the past?
I guess they've had a number of calls, general neighborhood complaints that he may have been involved in, even a domestic potentially. So that's obviously being looked at.
Where does he reside now, sir? You know?
I believe in Marshfield.
But as far as you can tell, he literally walked up, knocked on the door, and opened the door.
I won't say any further other than that he's been identified as a principal suspect who when they got there, they found a individual on the premises, and they also found the homeowner, obviously in need of critical.
Have you recovered a weapon, sir?
They're still processing the scene.
We had heard that there were shots fired into the ground as well. I mean, do you know how many shots were fired?
That's obviously waiting for state police ballistics to determine that, and obviously process any weapons that were involved.
Can you tell us anything about the victim, sir? Her line of work, her family?
I think that the chief or the deputy chief can, but she's well known in town. She's been active in town on the Board of Health. She's a well-respected nurse. I think
for the Weston Public Schools system.
She was head of the health services in the Weston Public Schools, and she's extremely well thought of in town.
Had she complained about this neighbor in the past? I mean,
I'm not going to get into that. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it very much.
So we've been listening to officials there speaking about a deadly shooting on Howie Street in Braintree. Officials there say that the victim, Laurie Melchionda, knew the suspect that they have in custody. They used to be neighbors. Officials say that she was the head of the Health Services Department for the Weston Public Schools and was well known around town. Police are investigating this shooting and death